Imagine working 20 hours a week from anywhere in the world on a business you love while it prints money in your sleep. That was Dmitri's life for 5 months.
There was like a period of like 5 months during which I was just working on YourMove AI and it was making money. And I was just working like 20, 30 hours a week, traveling, exploring, having fun, watching numbers go up. Being not accountable to anybody and just like making money in your sleep is incredible.
But getting there was a brutal 2.5-year grind. He wasn't a marketer, he didn't know how to build apps, and for the first year and a half, he made almost nothing.
6 months before I started monetizing, another year to hit the first $1,000, then a year to hit like 10, and then a year later I was at 28.
So what changed? Some would say he got lucky. He was early to AI, and he was building with GPT-3 before ChatGPT was even a thing. And the novelty of his app got him featured everywhere.
We were early to this, so there was also a lot of excitement around AI, so I wound up getting a lot of media attention. At one point I was on like Fox, CNBC, Wired, Washington Post.
But here's a twist. These PR articles didn't actually bring in users. It gave him something a lot more valuable.
The PR itself didn't generate any money, but it allow us like a really good SEO strategy. We had very good domain authority at the door.
With that domain authority, he built an SEO machine that drove half his traffic all the way to $30K a month. But he didn't do that part alone. While he was still working his full-time tech job, he hired a team all from Upwork.
At one point, I had like 10 to 12 different contractors, most of them working only a couple of hours per week. I was a manager at the time. I didn't need to pay myself the money. I could afford to be not profitable for a while because I still had my day job.
He scaled the business to $30,000 a month using his salary to pay the contractors that fueled the SEO machine. And just when he was about to quit,
Opendoor did a giant layoff in November. So I got a severance package and an exit on top of everything else. That was like the happiest, probably the happiest moment in the past couple of years.
In this episode, Dmitri breaks down the playbook for building a profitable side business from scratch, how to turn PR articles into a defensible SEO moat, how to hire a team of contractors on Upwork to scale while you're still employed, and the exact revenue milestone you need to hit before you can quit your job for good. This is a masterclass on the slow but strategic and sustainable path to building a business that sets you free. Let's dive in. This is the Superwell podcast, and I'm Joseph Choi, founder of Consumer Club. The members in the Consumer Club Discord and the founders I interview on the pod build apps at a median of about $1 million ARR. In my conversations with dozens of these founders every week, one thing I've noticed is most of them A/B test their paywalls to increase their conversion rates and make more money. Now, most people know that one of the best ways to A/B test paywalls is Superwell. But one thing you might not know is Superwell has a lot of data on the thousands of apps that use their paywalls. So recently they actually put together a tool that takes 422 profitable paywall experiments and put those into a paywall experiment generator where you can upload a screenshot of your own paywall and it'll give you an experiment idea to increase your revenue. You can use it for free at paywallexperiments.com. All right, let's get into the pod. What is YourMove AI and how much money did it make at peak?
YourMove AI started as a joke, but it became an AI that basically automated online dating. At peak, recently it's been making $30K a month, about 80% margin, and doing everything from telling you what to text to writing your profile to telling you what photos to use to, I think as of like a year and a half ago, we started actually making the photos.
That's interesting. Is this the only product that does the profile review and profile writer stuff and the photo? Because I think I've seen these various, like I've seen chat, obviously, right? Because that's, that's the whole Blake Anderson, Riz GPT type stuff. And that was really popularized. But this, what year did you start this?
So this was, I think I started my thing about a year before the whole Riz thing. I, at the time, did not know how to build apps or how to market at all. So I was early, but just did not capture nearly as much of the market. There's other people that do both photos, they do profile writer, they do profile reviews. All in all, we tried like 12 different products. And these are the products that stick around that make money. It's a big space. But I think I started this back in 2022, back when it was just literally a text box on YourMove.ai where you copy a message that you get from Hinge and it will give you 3 flirty responses.
Interesting. So you said it started out as a joke. Tell me that story.
I was literally drunk at a party. I think it was originally called Aspie.ai. Very quickly rebranded from that after about a day. But I was drunk at a party and I was telling a friend, what if we This was back in like the DaVinci 2 days of AI, back before ChatGPT, before anybody was talking about it. And I was a data science manager, and I was spending a lot of my time reading Hacker News and playing around with tech because that's what managers and thought leaders seem to do. It actually originally started with, I was building a Slack bot as a joke to replace myself as a manager using DaVinci 2. I was like, actually, what if I use this to text on dating apps? And my friend was like, you should build this. And I spent a weekend seeing if we could get the then like GPT-2 AI to flirt. Realized it was terrible at flirting, but it was still better at flirting than I was at the time. So put it up on a website and very quickly realized that this is something that people want. As funny as I thought it was, there was like a lot of friends that were like, wait, can I use this? Can I give this to friends? And I'd built a lot of stuff before because I'd wanted to build a company, but I've never felt that like that pull. It was always kind of the push, like, oh, like, would you try this thing? Would you use this? Oh, are you a target user for something like this? I've never felt that like, wait, this half-baked terrible thing that you built in a day. Wait, can I use it? Can I give it to people? Oh my God, this is so helpful.
That's like a very strong signal for consumer products, or I guess any product in general. To me, that's a strong signal that it's highly monetizable too, because it sounds like people have, it's like very high intent. And when there's a high intent, like I really need this problem solved, then people want to monetize. So is this like a hard paywall or is it freemium?
It's still soft paywall. I mean, at the time when I started building this, it took me like 6 months to even monetize because I think I was still running on the old vision, like, oh, you build a company and you get users and then you monetize it later. That I think everybody now knows kind of doesn't make sense. But this product is still running on a soft paywall. The AI photo is obviously hard paywall because the compute cost on that is quite high. But yeah.
So this still makes money to this day?
Yeah. I sold the company about 4 or 5 months back. I don't know the financials currently. But when I left, it was like, I think it peaked at 30 and then I was making 28K in revenue when I stopped working on it.
Wow. Okay. So like around 30K in revenue pretty consistently. And then can you say anything about the exit price or not?
But it also took a while to build it up. I feel like there's a bunch of stories of people that like hit that amount of money in like a month. This took me like 2.5 years. I was working full time for almost the entire time of it. But it was very much like a slow process of building up my first business, my first startup. It was not an art. It was very much a like 1.5 to hit the first $1,000. Like 6 months before I started monetizing, another year to hit the first $1,000, then a year to hit like 10, and then a year later I was at 28.
But did you have like motivation milestones? Because it's really easy to quit when you have like no progress for a long time. But I imagine you had like user numbers flowing in, so you kind of thought, okay, there's something here.
I had user numbers. Like I feel like with consumer stuff, especially like you see the engagement, you see people interacting with it. We were early to this, so there was also a lot of excitement around AI. So I wound up getting a lot of media attention. At one point, I was on like Fox, CNBC, Wired, Washington Post. I wound up writing an op-ed for Newsweek. So this got a lot of media attention. And then the user numbers were always like there's a slow hill, but they were consistently going up. And also just hearing feedback from people who like genuinely found this transformative. The upside of working on something that you believe in is that like this is a genuine problem for a lot of people. And like I was an awkward kid that didn't know how to talk to girls at one point, and I think I've found it very relatable to work on something that like would have been something that I would have found helpful at an earlier stage in my life.
Mm-hmm. Here's one of your press articles, Wall Street Journal. Can you flirt better than artificial intelligence? This is so interesting. And okay, we're gonna get into the growth story in a second, but this is like, I just think it's so crazy how you built this in 2022. Was it GPT-2 was that the latest version at that point?
They were calling it, they had like scientist names for the models at the time. It was like Curie. I was using the most powerful model, the one that I was running on was called DaVinci 2. And this was in the days where you needed to like, if you wanted to use AI for something commercial, you had to fill out a Google form on OpenAI. And they would like take a couple of weeks to decide if they would allow this or not. This was back in the days when everybody was like super nervous around AI capabilities.
Wow. This is like This is the old model.
Okay, so I think it was
Something like that.
GPT-3, but DaVinci 2 was what it all started on.
Wow. Okay. But yeah, that's way before. So that was before ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
I was a data science manager at a company called Open Door, and I knew how to build the AI stuff because I knew Python. I knew how to build ML models, which is not particularly useful here. But I also knew how to write enough Python that I could build something there. But the entire front end everything was so janky, and I didn't know how to market. I didn't know how to sell. I didn't have anything resembling a social media presence. I still don't. To some degree, it was the process was discovering all of these things one by one. I think the other hard part is that no matter what you hear or read about on the internet, nothing really compares to actually doing it. Nothing that you read will you might be able to fast track things a little bit. You can save yourself time with mentors, but I do feel with entrepreneurship, you have to learn a lot of things the hard way, especially if you're coming from a big tech background, but honestly from any background, because so many of the things that you're used to doing just make no sense in the context of building building a small business and even building a moderate business. I think the biggest failure point that I see is people trying to take lessons from big tech and apply it here, and just so many things just don't work.
Right.
With marketing in particular, with marketing and with product, it is such a discovery process. I don't know, anytime it's I built the product, the running joke is somebody builds a cool product, it's cool, now I just got to find somebody to do the marketing. Come on. But I also I didn't know that. I was okay, cool, now how do I grow this? And it turns out that's hard, and that's where the money is.
Yeah. So how did you grow it? What was your biggest channel that worked?
So the honest answer with this particular company is I got lucky. At first it was, I think the early amounts, there was a lot of I did everything from Reddit. I was at one point, because I really didn't fucking know any better, was handing out flyers in Washington Square Park here in New York. Spoiler, it did not work that well. I did Reddit. I did a little bit of Google Ads. Ultimately, the two things that worked was one, the product was very early. This was before most people had been exposed to AI. So most people that saw the product were super excited about it. It was super novel. I posted a lot, and yeah. Oh, my account is suspended.
It's suspended, but I mean, okay, you still have the stuff, the comments out there, but this is
This was by a customer.
That's interesting. You were handing out flyers, you were doing Reddit. Was there any strategy to the Reddit? Did it work?
No, nothing. I found small communities. So for me, this was our swipe helper. There was a subset. There was a couple of subreddits of people that were very focused on optimizing their dating apps. I started posting on those, and I got some early attention on those. Actually, I still get a decent amount of SEO from some of those posts. And then because it was so early, my app also started to get media attention. So I wound up being on a lot of major news channels, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post. That got me a lot of media coverage, and the media coverage in itself didn't actually convert to that much user. But at one point I was on Fox Business, and that got me less views than a single decent Reddit post. It was kind of ridiculous, but what it did give me was domain credibility, and so that ultimately made the SEO strategy that we took a lot easier. So we wound up building out kind of an SEO pipeline. If you look at our blog, I'll caution that I don't know if the SEO strategy would work now. Partly,
sure, SEO has changed a lot, but yeah, it'd be interesting to learn from the story and the tactics of how you did this.
So we benefited a lot from the fact that one, again, just the media attention, we had really good backlinks, and so we built up a really strong domain as a result of credible media agencies linking to us. And then we found an opportunity. There was a variety of keywords that were relatively low competition, but that had relatively high volume. And so we started targeting those with blog posts, and that ended up driving nearly half of our traffic. We ran a bunch of experiments. around like what to market on these things. So you'll see various pop-up ads showing up on these screens. So SEO ended up working reasonably well. Again, the Google, like SEO as a whole, is now an entirely different beast. We've seen our SEO decline pretty meaningfully. And like some of it we're working to recapture, but some of it is just like a lot of the SEO strategies that people were using 5 years ago just don't work anymore, because like a lot of blog posts like this have effectively become redundant with AI, right? Like Google is pushing AI. And so a lot of the things that people would randomly click into are now people are just AI generating. The other thing, we wound up trying a bunch of different marketing channels, but we also wound up doing a decent bit of Google ads. I think one lesson there is we had a variety of products, and like for some of those ads worked quite well. For some of them, they didn't work at all. And so different channels worked for different products. And so for us, we wound up, like, even if you click around the different blog posts, and certainly if you look at our Google ads, like different content routes to different products. It helped that we have a web funnel. So we have primarily a web product. And so it made it a lot easier to direct people to different things. And it's a single website, but in effect, this was like a collection of different products that we tested and like different strategies that we tested out. At one point we were doing, very briefly, we were testing dating coaching. And that in itself was actually not a bad product. It was just like very high maintenance, and ultimately decided that we didn't want to do that. But there's a lot of different ways to make money if you can figure out how to get attention. Like because the two moving pieces there is like, how do you get eyeballs, and then how do you convert those eyeballs into dollars? And so acknowledging that this was all on a very small scale, the entire game was playing around with those two levers. Like, how do we get eyeballs on this site, and then how do we convert these eyeballs into the most monetizable thing possible?
So it sounds like you're basically you're collecting SEO authority by making all these pretty targeted organic articles. So people would search up things like, people would probably search something like, what do I text my crush? And then they would arrive at this article, 100 good morning messages to send your lover, him or her. And then maybe someone would search up like, best dating apps. And then you would get 10 best dating apps in 2025. And then inside the article, there's useful content. And then there's an ad for your own site. And it says, hey, do you want more personal pickup lines? YourMove AI can generate the pickup lines. And then you click, and then it's like right there. Yeah. And then the PR articles are like from NBC and Wall Street Journal and all these PR. You're not really driving traffic through those, but it just gives you better domain authority because they're linking back to your site, and they have a very reputable site. So you're getting good domain reputation, which should boost you in the Google search results, so that you're more likely, these articles are more likely to show up when people search those terms. Is that a good recap?
It kind of, with one small alteration, like we built the domain authority through getting the PR articles. So like we had very good domain authority at the door, like from the starting point. We had really great domain authority. And then once we had that domain authority, we're like, oh, there's an SEO opportunity. And then we captured that SEO opportunity. We didn't really slow build out SEO or build up domain authority over time or do any of that placement. We never paid for backlinks or hunted for backlinks. It was more of just, we're in the right place at the right time with a very viral product. But yeah, the PR itself didn't generate any money, but allow us a really good SEO strategy.
Yeah, it was an interesting step-by-step process though, because you start with the domain authority, which allows you to have a huge advantage in SEO. Everyone is trying to make SEO articles, but not all of them have really good domain authority. So you had the foundation already set. Then you make the articles, and then people start coming in, and then you can do Google ads too to scale that once you figure out what messaging is hitting.
But it was also a very undersaturated space. Even before, even once the Riz stuff kicked off, there's a bunch of people doing running App Store and TikTok stuff, but there was only one real serious competitor that I had at the time. I'm sure there's more now, that was taking an SEO strategy for this. Like everything else was just like cheap content from blogs that like weren't making as much money as this, and so they couldn't put as much resources into it. And then like kind of like weird personal sites and like small strange matchmaking operations. And like there's the thing about Google ads versus meta ads is with Google ads and SEO, you're capturing latent demand. So there is already a like certain amount of demand as like signified by people searching for things. In our case, a lot of the keywords is like pickup lines. There's a variety of like topics that were like had a lot of search volume that were related to our product that we could capture. But there's a ceiling, and so like how much opportunity you have is dictated by the volume of that stuff. Whereas with Meta and TikTok, you are creating induced demand. So you're able to get people that weren't looking for your product or looking for something similar before to explore and pursue it. So there's a lot more upside in theory, but those people are harder to capture because you're competing with everybody else that could theoretically be converting those people into dollars. I had a small captive audience of people that was interested in optimizing their online dating. And within that audience, I was able to offer like a very compelling and well monetized product. But when Google and SEO, you're like capped by the like area under the curve of people that are searching for those things. And like maybe that area expands, but you're limited by that Google search volume.
Yeah. That's a good lesson. I think a lot of people try to just randomly try every channel, but it's important to remember what the purpose of each channel is. Google is about capturing intent that's already there. So people are searching out proactively these things, looking for a solution, and you only pay for a Google ad when people actually search and click for that term. So your job at that point is just to nurture and convert the person who you know already has the problem. Versus with Facebook ads, you're kind of just, you're blasting it to anyone in a specific audience and then guiding them through that journey. And that's why Facebook funnels seem to be a lot longer. You have to have this whole like onboarding sequence and paywalls and stuff.
All of these ads run as auctions, right? Your app needs to monetize as well or better than or at least like monetize like close to the people that you're competing against. And so like, in Meta's case, you're competing against anybody that could monetize a user of this demographic. It's also why most of the like things that you'll get on Meta ads and Google ads are like definitionally like a little bit scammy because they have to be like as or more exploitative than the next best thing to like justify the cost of the ad.
So when you reach out to creators and you're about to invest into organic social and maybe boosting those videos with paid ads, you don't want to just let the creators do whatever they want. Most of the app founders I talk to on this channel basically have the same content philosophy. The videos need to go viral, but also convert and promote an app, and ideally are also repeatable. And those formats are like gems and really hard to find. That's why TikTok can sometimes feel like a lottery system. So what a lot of Consumer Club members do is they use this tool called SpyTalk, which brain rot scrolls hundreds of thousands of TikToks and just finds the most viral ones that promote apps. So here I search for fitness, gym, workouts. Let's say you like run a fitness app. I'm going to sort by most viral. And here's this 106x outlier video that promotes a fitness app, and it shows the text hook, it shows the image in the background, and then on the second slide it has this CTA in a really creative way. And SpyTalk has been the secret weapon for growth strategy for 11 Labs and Amo and Voodoo, which is the app studio that owns BeReal. So I recommend SpyTalk. It really is the only other tool I explicitly recommend on this channel other than Superwall.
One of the first lessons that I learned is you really every single marketing channel is hard. Like every single marketing channel, like to do a given marketing channel well, to run a particular marketing channel profitably requires a pretty significant time investment. Not every marketing channel works for every app. So there's some work to be done in like discovering and like learning, will this marketing channel learn from me? But there are very few marketing channels that you're just like, cool, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to do that and it's going to work for me right off the bat. Most of these, marketing channels require different levels of maintenance. Like doing UGC takes an insane amount of work, even when you're managing people, like running that effectively. as an operation is like a huge lift. Google and Meta ads still require very significant amounts. Like SEO will take you like 3 months of like very intentional investment before you see anything at all. And that's like, if you don't know what you're doing, it'll be like 3 to 6 months before you realize that it's not working for you at all and you give up. So like just being hyper intentional about the marketing channels and like putting in enough work that like you know it's not working because it's not viable rather than just execution failure. There's no real marketing channel that you can just spin up in like 2 weeks and be done with it.
This category is dating. I think dating is a highly monetizable category on Facebook ads and Google ads, but I think that's just an indicator of just human nature. Like, why is it so monetizable in your opinion? And are there other categories that are on this level or around this level?
From a monetization category, yeah, like if you think about the value versus monetization gap in dating, like if you asked a friend, like, I don't know, like how much would you be willing to, are you single?
No, I have a girlfriend, but I've been single.
Okay. Imagine yourself single. Like how much would you pay to be introduced to like the love of your life, your like life partner?
Well, I had a friend actually that literally said, like we were having a conversation about this, and he was working in tech and he just like had a very demanding job, but he made a lot of money. He's just like, I'll pay $10,000 bounty to anyone who introduces me to my future wife. And it was like a very weird thing to say. Like nobody like does that really, but when you think about it, like, yeah, I guess I would too. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen numbers at 50. I've seen numbers at 100. I think ALF famously has $100,000 marriage bounty. It's a central problem for a lot of people. It is probably one of the most transformative things that like can happen to you in your life, like being in a like positive, healthy relationship versus being like it changes every aspect of your being. And so it's something that a lot of people obsess about. It's like something that a lot of people want to solve. But the value being captured in this space is actually relatively limited. And so there's products all along the chain of like, we will help you have a slight advantage to like, we will go ahead and solve this problem entirely for you through matchmaking. And so if you can give people results, or if you can even like make the promise of like giving people better outcomes, then it's a lot easier to monetize in the space than like anything else that's like quote unquote a vitamin problem, than any like friend making apps or like interacting apps. Like people will drop off of other social apps, but people will, like if something has the promise of like helping them meet their life partner, then it's a pain that doesn't go away until it's solved.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to go against like core human instinct.
Yeah, I mean, finding a romantic partner is one of core human needs that basically everyone wants. And then you said there's other problems that are vitamin problems. It's like painkiller versus vitamin dichotomy, right? Where this is definitely a painkiller. The analogy is people are willing to pay a lot for painkiller solutions.
People think about these things a lot. They like the classic vitamin problem is like, we'll build a new like friend making app, or like a new to-do list app, or like a new like anything that like will like make your life like 10% more efficient or something like that. And there's like a certain like very specific niche of people that would pursue that. But like if you're single, I mean, certainly a lot of the people that I know that are single, when I was single, I like spent a disproportionate amount of my time thinking about that. Vitamin problems, you have to convince people to do them. I think the exception there, I will note, is like if you can promise people longevity, people will pay a lot for those vitamins, because there's a lot of Peter Thiel-esque types that are like 60 years old and freaking out that they might not be immortal. So you can capture a lot of money there specifically, but for any sort of like life convenience, like look, this makes my calendar 10% better. It's a much, much harder sell versus something that is seven deadly sins, or however you want to frame it, like kind of like core human demands.
That's actually a principle that I would recommend. I'm curious if you agree with this, but if you're just starting out as your first business and you want to make money, I would just start with a painkiller problem and solution rather than trying to go after something that has less of that extreme pain point and thus demand, because it's easier. First of all, like you don't have to think so deeply about how do I guide this person down this whole journey of like why it's important to make your calendar 10% more efficient, versus you don't have to explain the dating problem. It's just like, look at your landing page. It just says like dating apps are exhausting. And like, that's all you need to say, because like everyone knows that already.
Yeah. It's much easier to make money on a product when you don't have to sell a person on why they need that product. And I think one of the advantages that we had was that like technology evolves the way that we date evolves, and it introduces new problems. And in fact, we're proposing a new solution to a problem that wasn't really a problem a couple of years ago. Like dating apps first emerged, and now they've gotten competitive enough that like everybody basically needs to be their own marketer. In effect, like finding, maybe there's something in there about like finding solutions for problems that like we as a society have only invented in the past couple of years. Like all the screen time blockers, honestly, it's like kind of a vitamin thing, but it is, but like people want it because everybody's tired of not getting enough sleep because of a problem that we invented for ourselves like 10 years ago.
So this is a whole category of product. You like products that alleviate the problems that you get from other products.
Products that alleviate the problems that we've invented for ourselves through technology. All of the like anti-AI cheating things, all of the amount of apps that like help you like scan, is my boyfriend cheating on me, or like are people unfollowing me on Instagram, or like there's something to be said about like there's this whole like ongoing discussion of like, do you bootstrap or do you do something venture backed? And I think an important answer there is like the amount of capital that you take in should match the scale of the problem that you're trying to solve. And so like you're trying to solve like a global problem that needs network effects, you probably need, if you're trying to solve something that like is going to be $1 billion business, then you probably need venture capital, because you're going to be competing against everybody else trying to do that thing. But there are an assortment of problems that are like just too small for people to do viably with venture capital. This is actually one of those problems. We had a couple of competitors that were venture backed, and I don't think they went anywhere. But like this is like solving problems introduced by another bigger app, stuff that like helps you with Instagram, like apps that help you with other consumer apps, feels like one of those things.
Yeah,
that, like
that's a good heuristic. Or like a bot that helps you write better tweets, right? It helps you get better at Twitter. So you're never going to be as big as Twitter unless you make some sort of, so it's like curing cancer versus like making a slightly better painkiller, like if you make a slightly better pain, you're not going to disrupt the whole medical industry. But if you cure cancer, that's an industry disrupting thing that needs venture capital.
Totally. And if you're building something that doesn't need venture capital, it makes the like bootstrapped approach a lot more viable, because you're like, your competition is spending less capital. There's like fewer entrants. They're moving slower. There's a lot more opportunity to do something like that as a person sitting at home, like doing this like nights and weekends in between your day job, or even like doing it full time, but it's your first thing. Building an app that sends tweets versus like building the next Twitter is like a really good example here. I think this is also where people go wrong with like people trying to build dating apps at home. I'm like, good that you're looking at like a Painkiller solution. Bad, you're building something that requires network effects, which means like you definitionally need a really high budget. And like 2, you're like trying to go toe to toe against like people that like is inevitably a venture backed space.
So even before this, had you done other side projects or entrepreneurial, businesses before?
Yeah, so I can give you the whole arc. In case anybody finds this interesting. So I graduated UT with a mechanical engineering degree, and I realized mechanical engineering jobs suck ass. It was like the smartest people that I knew were going to work in oil and gas. And I wasn't a big markets guy at the time, but I was enough of a markets guy to realize that like going to work in an industry that like looks and feels like it's dying and or like should be dying at age 20 feels like the wrong move. So I did the really clever thing that a bunch of people do when they get good grades and they're motivated, and I went to work at Deloitte Consulting. And that was horrendous. That was just the overlap. I think the overlap between like people that enjoy entrepreneurship and people that like doing client work that involves making slides. It was just not a good fit. But I spent 2 years there and got into tech, became a strategy person, became a data analyst, started like hacking on stuff. And like early on, a friend gave me a book called The Millionaire Fast Lane. And I think the awakening that I see a lot of people that are watching podcasts like this have at like age 15, I had at 25. I was like, wait, I want financial independence. And so I tried like 3 different things, all of which failed catastrophically. I think the first project that I built had like an overall TAM of like less than $1 million. Like if I capture the entire market, the business would make under $1 million. So you can probably guess how well that went. And there was like 2 other projects along the way that like didn't go anywhere and made no money. I did some consulting for startups that I was like considering joining, and I got some offers to join other startups, but ultimately, I think from when I started trying to like my first dollar was 4 years, and from when I started trying to like, oh, I don't need a job anymore was 5.
It's a grind. It's a journey. What was this? This is an interesting book. I think I discovered this book like 7 years ago as well. Like something like, I don't know where I heard about this, probably some random like Reddit, like obscure Reddit forum or something. But what was your main takeaway from this?
I feel like once you read one of these, you read all of them. Like, you don't need to like between this and like Rich Dad Poor Dad and like that entire canon, like all of that. Most of them are not that interesting, but the idea of that, like, you don't have to just work a W-2 job for the rest of your life. There are like other options.
Yeah.
The issue is none of these books can actually tell you how to do it, because the meta for how to do it changes on like a 6 to 12 month cycle.
Yeah. It's similar to, I think one of my frame breaks on this same thing was Naval Ravikant, and just his like tweets and podcasts and stuff, and just the concept of you shouldn't tie your time to money, and you shouldn't perform like a service for someone else in order, if you want to actually be rich and have like an outlier financial outcome, you have to build an asset. And I think that was basically the takeaway from this guy too.
I think the outcome distribution for how you want to handle it, like if you want to become extraordinarily wealthy, you need to do something like this. But also, like, I don't know, when I left my job and my startup was printing money in my sleep, there was also like a magical moment of like, oh, wait, I can work 5 hours a week and this prints $15,000 and I really don't have to do anything like that. Like, however you want to handle that freedom, like it is absolutely magical.
That's cool.
Well, wait, can I ask, when was your moment? What was your breakthrough moment? I feel like you got there earlier than I did. I'm always a little jealous of the folks that like discover this stuff. I'm annoyed that it took me until 25 to be like, wait, what?
Yeah, I think it's just because like the internet just keeps, I don't know, there's just more and more information, so it reaches people faster. Like I feel like these days it's reaching kids at like 13, but yeah, like I was probably 19 or 20. I was in college and I read some of these things online, and I was studying computer science, and so the path was like, oh, I'm going to become a software engineer.
Yeah.
And then I started, listening to these gurus online, and then it's like, oh, actually, and they make fun of 9-to-5s, and they show the differences in lifestyle between different, and just like the whole like approach to life. And I was just like, oh yeah, it makes sense. Like I'd rather be entrepreneurial. So I started drop shipping and all these like online businesses, and let's try to make money online.
So did you ever end up having like a normal ass 9-to-5 job?
No, I did. So I actually, I hedged it really, really hard. I did both tracks at the same time. So I applied to internships. I got tech internships. I did Google product management as my first job. But the entire time I was doing side projects. I was doing side projects while I was in college, while I was applying to jobs, while I was in the job at Google. And I built Consumer Club while I was at Google, and then quit.
Wow.
Earlier this year, actually. So I did this similar thing as you, where I did like the whole corporate path, but I was trying side projects for multiple years before
Wait, so
quitting.
when I met you last year, you were still full-time at Google.
Yeah, I don't think many people knew. For a little while, I put Google as my personal brand, and I'd be like, hey, I'm a Googler, like, but like nobody in startups cares, so I just kind of just stopped talking about it.
Yeah.
It's like an anti-signal sometimes.
I feel like Google, it depends on what circles you're in, but yeah, it's like big tech is like much less of a signal than it was. I feel like 10 years ago there was still
Yeah.
like, now there's just like enough antipathy and like cynicism, I think, around the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
Nowadays,
again,
it's like if you work at Stripe or Ramp, maybe it would be like, oh, that's
yeah,
kind of cool. Like maybe you're smart. But if you work at
Google has a
Google,
lot
it's
of
like,
Microsoft energy. I do think there is like something important there, which is that like there's a lot of different ways to slice this, but the whole like keep your 9 to 5 job and like do this on the side, like it's not a terrible idea.
hmm
I don't know if it was the right path, but having that like financial cushion, I think it goes a long way. I feel like I see a lot of people like quitting their jobs and then flounder. They like try to do something for 3 to 6 months, can't figure anything out, start panicking, get a job again, and then it goes nowhere. There's something about like do this aggressively on nights and weekends that like you don't have a deadline, so to speak. Like you have, I mean, you should still move fast, but like, but the I think the like lack of like time pressure and the opportunity to discover versus just cool. I'm giving myself 6 months full time to build a business.
yeah, it's a different psychology for sure. And you have, for me, one of the psychological elements was I had a 6-figure job in tech. So then that's the benchmark for success for the side
Yeah.
project. Like if I don't make that much at least with the side project, then it's not worth quitting. So, or it could be for some people, but I just like it kind of reframed all the ideas that I would think of towards that benchmark. Like, if this idea can't make this much, then it's not worth trying.
Yeah, like if this drop shipping project or like this particular consumer project, like if it can't get to the point where it's comparable to Google, like is it worth pursuing? And that
Yeah.
um there's one more like slightly grosser thing there, which is that like the like sense of self-worth that you get, like the sense of like legibility. Like I'm doing something that is like moderate to high status. Doing low status things is terrifying. And like not gonna lie, like maintaining a high status job until what I was doing was adequately high status. Like, is it stupid? Is it kind of vain? Yes, but it made the like transition a lot easier psychologically.
Yeah. I think if you're trained to be high status, sir, like, look, like I went to, it's like,
UT, same shit, just down south.
yeah, it's like yeah, exactly. Like it's hard to get out of that mindset, even though it's probably the better thing to do, or like the thing that you truly want to do. So it took a year to make your first, you said $1,000.
Yeah, it was a very slow curve. I mean, I can pull it up on Stripe, but it was like took like 6 months from when I started building it to like when a personal mentor of mine convinced me like, why aren't you monetizing? And then from there, like 11 months until it was like $1,000 altogether. Because at the time, I didn't know how to build apps. I didn't know how to market.
Are you doing all this yourself? Are you hiring people?
Yeah. I think something else that I did differently from a lot of other indie hackers is like I hired people pretty early on, not full-time people, but like literally like contractors on Upwork. People doing like everything from like our dev was working 40 hours a week, but like everybody else, like people that helped me write email sequences, people that helped me with SEO, people that helped me manage ads, people that like a designer, people that helped with Webflow. I think at one point I had like 10 to 12 different contractors, most of them working only a couple of hours per week. I was a manager at the time, and like I don't know, I've been doing management BS for a while. And so like it helped that I had like still like I didn't need to pay myself the money. I could afford to be not profitable for a while because I still had my day job. But I found it much easier to like scale by like having people to help out. There's like a customer support person that I paid like $5 an hour that would handle a lot of different things and handle a lot of small pieces. The other thing that I wound up being quite helpful was that like a lot of times I was getting ramped up on something new, like Google Ads, for example. I would hire a person that would do some of the work, but also like train me. And like I would like learn from them and like get onboarded to it at the same time. So a person that was like both doing the work and also like acting as a coach so that I could like run the process and understand it. It's hard to hire people when you don't know what's going on. And so a lot of times what wound up is like I'd make a hire we'd spin something up. It was kind of janky, but I'd also like learn what good looked like, what bad looked like, what worked, what didn't work, and it would make it a lot easier to hire the next person. First dev that I hired was terrible. The second that I hired was like pretty good. And then from the second one I learned and I got help from that to like hire people.
Hiring devs is like one of the biggest problems in starting software companies, because you're just, especially if you're non-technical, you just don't know what to look for, and it's expensive. It can be expensive. So did you just dive in and say like, I'm just gonna waste the money if I waste the money and I'll learn something? Or were you like careful about the initial vetting?
I was trying to be super careful. When you don't know how the black box works and like you don't know the code yourself and you don't know how long something takes. I think the first project that we wound up building with a dev team was we had a keyboard app, which that in itself turned out to be a really bad product bet. It actually performed much worse than literally just our core flow. There's like an app that integrated into your keyboard so that you wouldn't have to switch screens. Just like tell you what to text like right there while you were on the dating app. Interviewed a bunch of people, were super careful, were like very aggressive about budgets, but then like what they built was still like, it looked and felt like what we needed, but it was like deeply broken on the inside and took like longer and cost more than it was intended to cost, which I think is the case with, I think, every story that I hear of somebody like not that technical building something out. It helped that I was technical enough that I'd like worked with devs and that like I operated the back end myself. So I had like some sense of smell for what was good and what was bad. But like, God, hiring an agency, terrible time. And then like, yeah, hiring somebody before you know what you're doing. I'm wondering like, how do other people do this? Like, is there any sort of shortcut, or are you basically just kind of fucked the first time you hire a dev if you're like not that technical? Because anybody actually found a good workaround for this?
I've talked to, there's this guy Lots. He was one of the first members of Consumer Club, and he was on this channel as well. I interviewed him, and he uses Upwork for all his apps. He's like a multi-time founder. He built all these iOS apps, and he hires out of Upwork every time. And I think there's just some basic stuff that you can do. Like he says that you basically you got to break down the functions of the app into at least 3 parts, like 3 to 5 parts, and then put a price on each of the parts. Because one of the biggest problems is the costs bloat over time when the dev says like, oh, sorry, this is taking longer than I expected. And then you just don't know how to say no to that. You're just like, okay, I guess I'll trust you. But part of it is also like ChatGPT, where you can use ChatGPT to estimate, how complex are each of these features, and then put a price on that based on a benchmark of, what are the costs. And then he just has his own, like, I don't know if this is arbitrary, but he just sets his own like cap on each iOS app. So he has like very problem solving type of apps that are just pain point solution, hard paywall. And all he does is, I think his cap is like something around $2,000. So he never pays more than like $2,000 per iOS app. I think that requires just good SOPs, good vetting, and negotiating on price. I think a lot of people just don't negotiate on price, or are really clear about like, build this part, it's $500. This part, $1,000. This part, like $200. And the core feature should always be like actually the least, for him at least, he says it's the least labor intensive part. The core feature of the app and the onboarding and stuff like that is like the most labor intensive.
When you're doing hard paywall stuff, especially like your sales pipeline is like the onboarding experience of the paywall.
I want to talk about the lifestyle too a little bit. So do you feel like anything changed with each phase, where you're working full time and then you started making, up to like 20K a month, 30K a month, and then you also moved, right? So you moved locations, you did the whole like digital nomad thing, and then you exited. So I'm curious to like go through those life moments.
So I was a digital nomad when I started building the company. I was traveling around Latin America. I wound up settling in New York about halfway through the process. I don't know, New York is expensive. I don't think my lifestyle changed meaningfully at various points. There was like one big moment when the app hit around like 10K a month revenue. At the time, I was still doing no profit because I was funneling everything back into it. That it was like, wait, this could be my career. Like I could just do this. There's like line of sight to like my future is just like building apps and making this stuff. And that was, I think, just like a fully transformative moment. It's like tech jobs can be fun, but it never like, I don't know how your experience was working at Google. It's never like that fun. Like when you're like layer 7 of like 20 layers of people, like there's only so much autonomy and so much agency that you get. I was getting paid good money, but it was like the most fun I ever had was managing a data science team. It still wasn't ever that fun. Like building this stuff is so much fun. And the idea that it was like, wait, like this could just be my life. So the lifestyle didn't change. I like didn't spend any more money than I did before, but it was like oh wow, holy shit. Like I think the amount of optimism and confidence that I got was a lot higher. And then when I sold the company, I had started working on something new. And so my lifestyle didn't change at all. We just did A16Z speedrun. And so honestly, my life for the past 5 months has been a mess. We've been trying to do the same thing that I did here, but like very different industry, very different space, but like grow like 10x faster with a lot more resources behind me. So I defected from the bootstrapping thing. Bootstrapped is great once it's making money. Like I will say there was like a period of like 5 months during which I was just working on YourMove AI and it was making money. And I was just working like 20, 30 hours a week.
You started YourMove AI at Opendoor then, right?
At Opendoor.
Okay,
Yeah.
so at what point did you quit your tech job?
Literally when it was on track to, I think I told myself that once it was making like 20,000 a month, I'd quit. I think like I hit the like $17,000 or $18,000 mark and I was like, cool, it's time for me to go. And then I was on track to leave, I think in December. They were like hiring for a replacement. My manager and the whole team, half the team knew about it. And then Opendoor did a giant layoff in November. So I got a severance package and an exit on top of everything else. That was like the happiest, nice. Probably the happiest moment in the past couple of years.
Yeah, the one time when you really want to get fired.
The timing could not have been better.
Yeah. So why 20K a month? Why was that the milestone that you said you would quit?
Like, I'm a terror. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm an immigrant. My parents are immigrants. There's like something like, I don't know, like I borrowed money from like a drug dealer at one point to pay for like food in college. There's some like scarcity mindset that I think certain people have. And I'm one of those people where like I found it very, very terrifying to like leave something that was like secure up until I knew that like I had like something resembling an infinite runway. And I also told myself that like, honestly, like the argument that I made with myself is that like I was making a lot of money at Opendoor and I would actually take that money and reinvest more of it into growth. So I actually wound up being unprofitable for the last year that I was at Opendoor because I was spending, I would like pour extra money into experimenting with things, experimenting with new growth channels, experimenting with stuff versus doing it all myself. I like wound up hiring more talent and like running it in the red and treating this as like, this is better than me leaving Opendoor and just doing everything by hand. It's like if my hourly rate is like like $150 an hour and I can hire a bunch of people for $50 an hour that know better than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So the line in the sand was explicitly the moment where like I can cover all of my expenses like without burning any savings. It was like 20K profit. It wound up being like, 20K revenue wound up being like 10K profit a month without having to like cut any staff. New York is expensive. And I didn't want to cut down on my lifestyle either because I like partying in New York and being an idiot. Again, lots of variables in that equation. If you're willing to be more frugal or if you're willing to play things less safe.
That's actually a very interesting mindset that I don't know if that many people take that mindset of you're almost treating your job, your full-time W-2 job as, it's like when people have an agency business on top of their tech business and they're building a product and the product costs a lot of money to build. So then they do agency services on the side and then use that cash flow to fund the thing that they actually care about. And you're basically doing that, but with your jobs. And so you take your job money and then you put that into the thing that will allow you to escape the service job.
I think I see the version that you're describing. I almost see that more often, but actually no, I feel like there's a decent amount of people that like are like doing their day jobs and like have a hustle on the side. But yeah, it worked great.
Yeah.
Was I very effective at my day job? Not nearly as much as I'd like to be.
You made it. It worked.
Trade-offs? Yeah.
Yeah.
Caveats. Did it suck? Was it like a lot of hours? Was I working most weekends? Did I have to like ditch a lot of social events so that I could like work on Sundays? Yeah. But I think having a community in New York City of other people that are builders, and like literally just like a group chat called Ship It Sundays of me and a bunch of friends that would meet up every Sunday to like build stuff. A lot of different ways up to the top of the mountain.
Thanks so much, Dmitri. This is awesome. Great story,
Yeah,
and very inspiring. Thanks for being on the pod.
of course.
Something you might not know, most of the founders I cover on this podcast are hanging out right now in the Consumer Club Discord, sharing with each other what's working now for consumer apps. So you can apply to join Consumer Club if that sounds interesting to you. And this is the Superwell podcast. Of course, you got to check out superwell.com. We have more videos on the channel. So dig into those to learn from app founders who are willing to share super tactical stuff about app growth.